Well, hey, Facebook and beyond. This is TUNAP and my good friend, Dr.
Dr.
Michael.
Michael Gross. How are you, everyone?
We're here today to talk to you about a really special message that Michael has. But before we get into that, we always do these on Sunday.
Yes.
It's a great way to begin your week with a couple of some incredible words of wisdom from Dr. Michael Gross. I'm thrilled to pieces that we do this. We've been doing it for a little over a year. And I'm just going to go ahead and get right to the point, okay? Dr. Michael Gross is the author of The Spiritual Primer.
I like that book.
And best book I've ever read. I highly recommend it. He also has...
is the author of Healing the Holes in Your Soul. Wonderful
okay,
story.
Michael, you're freezing. There you go.
A wonderful story of triumph and overcoming fear, doubt, negativity, low self-worth, low self-esteem, and low self-love. Powerful message for all of you to really read and realize that you too can find the process of healing the holes in your soul.
Thank you, Michael. We're having a few little technical issues. I don't know quite why we're having issues with the focus on Michael's end, but you know what? We are at we come to you completely transparent. We are who we are. We have overcome so many hurdles when it comes to these Facebook Lives. And as far as we're concerned, you know, the message, you can close your eyes if it gets too fuzzy. Right, Michael?
Right.
Because it doesn't matter what we look like. What matters is the words you speak.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about.
Okay.
All about a message to empower you to change your life so that you can live the life you're supposed to lead, not what your ego says. And boy, is that powerful. But I'll stop talking. Go ahead.
If you were here last Sunday, Michael, wait, I don't remember now what day it was. But anyway, this is part 2 of the talk that Michael was doing about barriers. So if you haven't seen it, don't worry, you're going to see it, because we put everything up on Facebook. We leave it there on Facebook when we're not live anymore, and we never take it down. If it is missing, it's not. We don't take anything down. Right, Michael? We leave it up there for anybody to enjoy whenever. And what I love about Facebook is that now we've been doing this for over a year, and some of the recordings are coming back up on my memory, so I share them again. And that way, now you get an extra dose of Dr. Michael Gross.
All right. Week. And an extra dose of TU. There you are. TU. I always get confused. It's the other way around. TU.
We've got it this time. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you formally. I don't know what technical things we've got going on. You keep freezing, Michael. I don't know if it's the internet or, you know, but right now, we're going to keep on going.
What can we say?
You know, if you don't like the visual, close your eyes and listen anyway, because the words of wisdom are going to seep in through your pores and your ears, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so on that note, I'm going to get right to the point. Dr. Michael Gross, the gentleman over there, is an author, professional keynote speaker, transformational coach, and an entrepreneur. For more than 3 decades, he has been on a spiritual path as an intuitive, a healer, a spiritual counselor, and a teacher. Through the guidance of spirit, Michael has assisted others in their personal quest for self-empowerment, helping them to create the lives that they have long sought and to bring forth their intuitive abilities. I have to add the sidebar, Michael. I had no idea that we all had intuitive abilities until I met you. But we do, right?
Yes, we do. Every one of us.
One day we'll have to talk a little bit more about that. But today we're going to keep on going because our topic is barriers, part 2. So back to my script. See, because I do read this to make sure I don't miss any of the valuable points that we have that we want everyone to know about, okay? Michael currently teaches classes in spirituality, self-empowerment, Reiki, and other modalities. I took his recent manifestation class. Unbelievable the things that have happened since I took that class. It's so surprising, overwhelming, and I'm so grateful that you're teaching it again very soon. Um, and sorry, I got off script again, guys. But in concert with God, the true source, Michael has achieved great success and miraculous healings. He remains humble, knowing the work he does all comes from God, the true source. Michael lives in Lakewood, Washington, and has just launched his very new nonprofit. And I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce that, Michael.
The International Institute of Self-Empowerment. And it's a beautiful, wonderful 501(c). A little advertisement here. So if you're ever interested, you want to make a donation, we'll certainly be open to it. And my number will appear on there, and there'll be information how you can contact me. But basically, when my meditations, I was told to do this, which is what I did. Didn't know really what it was going to be for, but it was supposed to be for the good of humanity. And then when I began coaching that woman, the beautiful soul called Tio Nat, she was originally going to write a book about her mother and father. And she started talking about abuse and all the trials and tribulations and what she went through, which is just horrendous. And I had the honor of coaching her through it. He said, "You got to write this book." And so she has written the book, Healing the Holes in the Soul. And what's more important for all of you to realize is that when I formed the nonprofit, I finally got it set up by the IRS. It seemed like forever. But I understand it was done in miraculous quick time. I said, I think the first beautiful issue we're going to tackle is abused women, children, and men. Yes, men are abused. A huge minority, but they are. Mostly women and children. And then I said to her, "Would you like to be my director of abuse?" And she didn't wait 3.7 milliseconds and said, "Yes." So I'm so honored to be with her and to be on this podcast, but also to realize that I've got a great associate, a great partner to assist me in my missions and goals on the International Institute of Self-Empowerment. And what's really interesting, I've said this before, but there may be some new people, new souls. She was my sister in a past life. And you know our story, so I'll reiterate it. She kicked me out of the womb first to test the waters. And then she said, "Well, he seems to be making it, so maybe I'll try." And she came screaming through. Uh, the next thing that occurred was a while back, she saw a vision of our mother in a past life. She said she was beautiful, very loving and caring. I said, "Yep, I look just like our mother." So that's my way of getting even. But actually, we were brother and sister, true story. That's why we kibitz around, we have fun, we laugh, we josh, we needle each other, but very lovingly and caringly as a brother and sister would do. And when I misbehave, she keeps saying, "I'm going to tell mom." So I got to be good today. I don't want to be grounded. Of course, those days they didn't ground us. They used the paddle, but we won't talk about that. Anyway, so this explains our relationship, and I'm so honored to be with her again in this lifetime. And I wanted to talk to you about barriers, barriers two. Barriers one was up to about the age of 8.5, or 9, somewhere around there. And now we're going to talk about barriers two. And what I originally talked about, of course, was what we learned from our parents, family, friends, relatives, and so on. And just to reiterate, we are blank canvas when we're born, and everything we believe is to be true, unless until we find out when we get older that maybe it wasn't true or it was made up or whatever. But there are certain things that are really wonderful in growing up. And of course, it's the little white lies that our parents told us, "Oh, you're great, you're wonderful. Oh, you look handsome, you look beautiful," and so on and so forth, when we doubted ourselves. Maybe we did look that way, but that was very encouraging. So there's always mom and dad, and always the authoritarian. Mom was the loving, caring one, and there was a balance. Sometimes today they trade places, but basically that's the way it was. So what I'd like to address now in barriers two is from approximately 8.5 or 9 to maybe 21. And the reason I'm addressing that is that whatever started in your life, the formula, the protocols in your life that you learned at that young, tender age, you are now putting into practice. Right or wrong, you're putting in practice. Any prejudices that your family had, you put into practice. Any positive things you had, you put into practice. And even the foods your mom and dad liked or whatever, you adopted them for the most part, and they became your foods. Till you learn later that, nah, I really didn't like it. But you placated your family and went along with it. You acquiesced to whatever they wanted to do. And then you began to go to school, you developed new friends, and you realize maybe things are changing in my life. Maybe your belief systems are changing because everybody has a set of belief systems. Now, some of them are like this, they go hand in hand, they mingle together. Others are like this, they're very far apart at different levels. So, this is part of the exploration. And of course, the anchor we had when we were growing up was mom and dad, and maybe grandma and grandpa, and they were there. And we began to learn. And as we did, we may have lied about something, and you don't want to do that in my household. You did that once, that was it. You only did it once. But as we began to learn many, many new things, I realized that where our foundations of life is based upon the first young years of our life. And then we either enhance them or undo them. And I remember one time I was in 10th grade and I had a geometry teacher. And she looked to be 165. Yeah, she had gray hair. She's probably 65. But when you're 13, 14 years old, it looks that way. She taught by intimidation. This is the wrong guy to be taught by intimidation. And the girls would cry. And the boys were stoic. And one day I forgot to do my homework. And I think it was subconscious because I was rebellious. And I walked into the class and I didn't have it. She just lit into me. Well, men don't cry, so we couldn't show any tears. At this point, it was kind of traumatic for me to be put down, any child. And what had happened was in geometry, I went to school in New York State. Well, it didn't make a difference if you got all A's in class in geometry. You had a New York State Regents exam. You had to pass that. And I had a whopping high grade in geometry, a D plus. So David plus, really good, because she had offended me, she hurt my feelings, and I was blocking out. And then I had to take the New York State Regents exam. And in taking the New York State Regents exam, I think the passing grade was 58 that year. I got 52. Had I got 58, I would have, passed. But it was a really tough exam, and they were known to be tough in every subject. So what happens? I flunked. So I had to go to summer school. I went to summer school and had a great teacher. Took a new exam, 98. In the New York State, '98. She was great. She was me. And in doing so, I made clear we're having a little internet problems, but made clear, I realized I wanted to share this with you, that a part of my soul had fragmented. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean? What does it mean, Michael? Well, understanding that we have a soul, and let's back up a little bit. So, as a soul, before you incarnate, you make these agreements. And whatever karmic lessons you came here to learn. Remember, karma is just an experience. Therefore, I chose my family, my friends, my relatives, my sister, my 2,700 ex-wives. I chose all of them. Did I get you on that one? You all paying attention? Anyway, so here I come, and I'm into this family. And I came here to learn about some self-worth and self-love, self-esteem issues. We all did. And during this time, what happened is that a little part of my soul had fragmented, and I didn't know that because of embarrassment. Well, one of the subjects I really loved was history. Oh my gosh, history. I mean, in science, I didn't have to even study for an exam. I was like a computer; it just came out 98s, hundreds all the time. Math was my challenge, but nevertheless, I realized much later on that I let that woman, who meant well, destroy me. And that affected me, a little loss of confidence because she berated me and called me stupid and everything like that. That was her method of teaching. Well, when you're 10th grade, and you're 13, 14 years old, it's pretty traumatic. At least it was for me. But I didn't come home crying to mom and dad. We didn't do it when I was growing up. And we took our punishment, which for me was summer school. But the most important thing I learned from that later on was that I can triumph, and I use that word over anything. That was part of my learning lesson. I could triumph. And that's so very, very important, triumphing. Because you see, in all these things that happen as a child, and even in, we're talking from now 9 or 10 to 21, they formulate a challenge in your life. Now, they formulate two things: feelings of success or failure, or low self worth, self love, and self esteem, or high self worth, self love, and self esteem. Nevertheless, it triggers all that in our lives. And as I'm talking to all of you between those ages, I bet you had some challenges, and I bet you challenged yourself. But here's the old Rock of Gibraltar mom: Michael, you can do anything. Always encouraging. Michael, you can do anything. And that held me together. And a lot of my friends, when I was going to school, we had A groups were college entrants, B groups, which would either go into the work field or college or junior college. And we had the C group, which were in the trades. And of course, my parents really never pressured me. All my mother said, you just got to graduate high school. And that was a piece of cake as far as I was concerned. But I strove to always be with the college educated. And I remember I went back to visit a lot of my friends in the high school reunion. And the high school reunion was, I don't know, 30th or 40th, whatever it was. And because I graduated at 8 years old, that's why it was the 30th or 40th. Is my nose growing, Pinocchio? Anyway, thank you. A lot of them, my good friends, were doctors. 4 or 5 of them were doctors. A couple were scientists. And my surrogate brother, best friend, he was there. Of course, we kept in touch all these years. And he was part of the C group. He ended up owning 5 budget rent-a-car franchises. Yeah, so not brainy, right? In the trades, so he's very, very successful. So, and car washes and everything. Kind of chuckle when I think about that. But anyway, they were all unhappy. The doctors, the lawyers, they were all very unhappy with their lives. And here's my surrogate brother happy, and I'm happy with what I'm doing. And it's really interesting. But what struck me at that age is we all strove for perfection. And when I was growing up, you never brought shame upon your family. That was really important. You made your family proud of you. So those were a lot of unsaid things that were going on in our life. And that formulated our life. So one, you never embarrass your family. And I carried that through the rest of my life and made sure that was never a barrier. Number two, the most important thing is you never say anything negative about your family. You don't spread true rumors. And what do? We look on Facebook. My mother did this. My sister did this. We saw the family linen being, exposed or whatever.
Being
That
aired.
here, thank you for the right words. We don't even do. We were taught never to do that, and we were taught to support one another, and that's so important. But yet, it became a conflict as time went by, because here's many souls taking the opposite, hearing all their problems, and others were said, you don't discuss it. And I'll address that after the age of 21, 22. It'll be part 3. But everything that we had done up until I went to college had formulated our lives. And I look about how it formulated our lives. And it was interesting. I wasn't Catholic, but I got a small scholarship to St. Bernardino Siena College in Loudonville, New York. Yeah, even flunky geometry. So I was able to go there. It was an all-male school, and they used to have a great basketball team, a world-class or a U.S. world-class basketball team, and I learned a lot and had a lot of friends. But everything that trained me, everything that made me do what I do was because these were barriers that my parents pointed out in my life. And then I realized that only I could change those barriers. And that's so important. So let's look at some of the barriers. Well, you never bring shame to your family. You never did anything wrong. And that meant that whatever you did, you had to strive for the best grades. You had to strive for recognition. You had to strive for this and that. And I remember in my youth, all those things were imprinted in my mind. And I did everything to make my family happy. I did it for them, not for me. And I learned another lesson. But at that time, it wasn't so bad because if I did it for them, I also got some of the fall off, which meant that it affected me positively. And I was president of this company, this group, that group, fraternity. I did all these things, but I learned a lot. And in the process of learning, I had to overcome the barriers of the shame that I flunked, the barriers that my family weren't wealthy, the barriers that I had to work. I mean, when I look back at it, and everyone, this is true confessions, I guess. I had a paper out with 100 different uh, paper people buying the paper, and I was making $35, $40 a week, which was pretty good money because the minimum wage was 50 cents an hour. Yeah, I know those that are younger find it hard to believe, but 50 cents an hour, gas was 10 and 15 cents a gallon, so you could live pretty comfortably. But getting back to that, one of the things I learned that if I wanted something, I had to work for it. And I understood that, and it made me who I am. These barriers that we are going through today of self-worth, self-love, and self-doubt, when you are forced to do something because you have no choice, the old cliche, necessity is the mother of invention. It is so important for us to realize that we are the solution to our lives, and only we hold that solution. Now, that doesn't mean we can't be mentored, doesn't mean we can't be hurt. But I learned a long time ago when I was very young, if I had a problem and I talked to somebody who knew more than I did, which those days everybody did, but they were an expert in that field. When you talk to a person that's successful, they're more than willing to mentor you and to help you. And that was so important. So we didn't have the internet. We had Encyclopedia Britannica or the library, and we learned how to research. But more importantly, what we've all lost as a humanity right now is critical thinking. And that's one of the things I'd like to address right now. Critical thinking is so important. In school, you take logic, philosophy, in the college that I went to, sometimes in high school, you took different various courses like geometry and others that really force critical thinking. In other words, what I found out is I'm the solution. And what is the solution? Research whatever you desire to accomplish. So today we go to Google, and it's on the internet, it must be true. We've all heard that one, right? It's not necessarily true. But if we research, and one important thing I learned is if you ask 12 people opinion, you get 12 opinions. Wow, isn't that really confusing, right? But innately, your soul, what's right. You really know that, but sometimes you don't like the answer. So you go around seeking and seeking and seeking till you hear the answer. And I was teaching a class one day, and one of my students said, my husband wanted to buy a boat, but I wanted to do a program called Talking Books. And they were on little tape CDs, tapes first, then CDs. And her husband put pressure on her. She shouldn't invest in that. So what happened was she went to a whole bunch of people. She came to class one day. I went to Michael and he said it would be successful. I went to 12 people. They all said I was going to be successful. 13th said I wasn't. She was the only one that was right. So I'm not going to open up that business. And I point that out to all of you because it's also important to you is to remove the barrier of expectation. What does that mean? You or she was looking for that answer, it wouldn't work. Well, if the odds are 12 out of 13 said it'll be successful, that's a pretty good bet, right? That's about a 92, 93% bet it's going to work. Nothing's 100% in life, but I will tell you that that's a good percentage. So he got his way and bought the boat because he laid a guilt trip on her. And she was looking for an excuse. And I bring that out because we have to realize how sweet we are. You sure? Go ahead.
Let me jump in for a sec. Uh, Along that line, when someone gives you a compliment and you hear a lot of compliments about something that you did, why is it that we hold on to the one thing that was a negative comment? Okay, we hang on to that negative one, even though we had 100 good compliments. We hold on to that one thing, and all of a sudden we're devastated by the one thing. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's take a look at that. Everybody's an expert in what you do. I use that philosophy. Now, some people really are experts, but everyone you meet is an expert. And if there's any sense of doubt, if you don't believe in what you're doing, that is what if you don't believe, you have a doubt the size of a width of hair, and someone goes up, pushes your button, and says something negative, that doubt now becomes the size of this universe. Before it was the width of the hair, and now it's the size of the universe. Why? Because you don't believe in yourself. You don't have that self-worth, self-love, and self-esteem. Now, we all understand that, and I guess I read a book where 83% of the population has low self-esteem. It's also very important for us to realize that one of the barriers we have, we're taught of doubt, 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 doubt. And it all begins when you're young. Well, you're sure this is right? Are you sure that's right? Are you sure this or that? Or you get criticized. And you get criticized enough, you lose your self-worth, self-love, and self-esteem. And remember what I said when you're growing up, the first year word you learn is no, 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 no. And so that's really great idea. Do you think this might be a better idea? That would start the critical thinking. You started to look at. Most important thing we need to understand is we compare the past with the present. Always comparing it instantaneously. And you remember my story. You asked me for a hot fudge sundae. Go, yep, let's do it because I love it. Want a hot fudge sundae with sauerkraut, jalapeno peppers, Brussels sprouts, and sour whipped cream? I don't think so. Right? But you see how we're immediately thinking those things. That's important for us to realize because part of our barriers are our pre-programming of thoughts. And when those of you who are listening to this, I would like you to make some notes. Notes from the age of 8 or 9 to 21. What were some of the barriers or challenges you faced? What were some of your doubts? When I was driving, getting my driver's license, I was fearful I wouldn't pass, but I did. I get it. We all have those doubts. Or you hoped you graduated high school and you got good grades. Yeah, that's part of growing up. And of course, you're going to college, you want to go into the best college. And really, you might not have got into the college you desired to get into, but I'm willing to bet it was the best college for you if you went to college or junior college. Or perhaps you took on a trade. And things are so important today. When my son said to me one day, "Hey, Dad, how come this guy next door got a fancier house than ours? Gets all these new cars. What does he do?" I said, "He repairs transmissions." "So you got some businesses and he repairs transmissions?" "Well, son, it's more liquid. It's more liquid or lucrative than the business I have." So that's all I said. And that's what's important for us to realize that. And I have a friend who's in a plumbing business, and he has a bunch of plumbers. And what's the average plumber earn? Oh, about 100,000 a year. I'm like, oh, so wow. People go to college and they don't even make that kind of money. But not everybody can be a plumber. The important thing for us to realize is whatever is occurring in your life is designed for you to be successful. That doesn't mean you're married to that for the rest of your life. Because certainly someday we'll get a discussion of all the many businesses and things I was into. But I realized I learned a lot. Just breathing and meeting people, you learn a lot. So part of eliminating barriers, and I know we're getting a little short on time, part of eliminating barriers, I'll give you a secret. Be a good listener. Listen and try to keep your mind blank by listening. Because it is said that somewhere between 70 or 80% of the time when someone's talking to you, you're formulating an answer. What does that mean? Well, you're only getting 20 or 30% of it. Part of our barriers in life is to listen and listen what everyone is saying. And the most important one to listen to is the words and thoughts of your soul, because that will release all barriers. When you meditate, and do meditate, and when you meditate, everyone, after your meditation or during your meditation, the thoughts will come to you. Or perhaps you just got out of the shower, or your mind is blank, and all of a sudden a thought comes, call to you, call Michael, or purchase this or do that. And when you start listening, the barriers will start coming down. And I just want to add one more thing before we conclude. And everybody asks me, how do you tell the difference between thoughts of the soul and your ego? And the answer is very, very simple. This works 99% of the time. Remember, I don't believe everything's 100% of the time. And that is the ego has to justify everything in your thought. Remember, ego edging got out. So the ego will say anything, but it has to justify it. Buy the shirt. Oh, the blue's your favorite color. It's a good price. It'll look good on you, blah, blah, blah. So you buy it. However, when it's your soul, Michael, buy the shirt, or just walk over to the shirt. Nice shirt. That's it. And then it comes in handy. Everything in life, listen to the thoughts of the soul. And you have to justify it. It's the ego. And let me tell you, sooner or later, you're going to end up in a pile of manure. Me, I want to end up in a pile of roses. But I know we're beginning to conclude. To you, would you like to add anything
I
on a
think
personal nature?
on a what?
On a personal nature of barriers.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that comes to mind for me is I grew up in a house, and without realizing it, my parents had given me limited beliefs. They were raising me old school because they immigrated from a different country. And old school, they were teaching me that back then, you're a girl. You're a girl. What can you do? And that's, in a way that pigeonholed me into thinking that I wasn't as good as anybody else, that that I had limitations. And I think more importantly, we need to realize that we're only limited by our own mindset. It's not what someone else teaches us. When we listen to the thoughts of our soul, it will tell us exactly what we need to do to move forward in our life, because our soul knows what's best for us. And if you read my book, or Michael's, either one, we are led by our souls. And there's many, many examples in both of our books on how that happens. So, definitely one more time, I'm going to go ahead, Michael, and tell everybody, hey, this is an amazing book, The Spiritual Primer. I'm sorry for the light, but excellent book. And every chapter has questions at the end, which will help you to understand whether it's your ego or your soul speaking to you. And I wanted to say that because Michael, our amazing Michael, also does a call-in on Tuesday night. So start with this book, because this book and that amazing man right back there convinced me to write mine. Okay? I wasn't going to do it. I went, no, I'm not writing my story many, many times. And he finally said, yeah, he's got pointy-toed shoes. And he says, do you want me to kick you? He didn't actually threaten me like that, but he was like, I will keep on nudging until you write it. And he did. And there it is. So on that note,
Great book.
but you'll hear our stories in the book. You can read the stories. And on that note, Michael, he has a Tuesday night call-in. You want to tell the people about your Tuesday night call-in?
Yes, every Tuesday night, Pacific Standard Time, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. You call in and ask any questions you have on the spiritual nature about life. And hopefully I can answer them. Then afterwards, I deliver a 10-minute message, and I have 211 of them, and we'll give you that number. But first, I'd like you to give the call-in number. And what is my purpose for doing that? It's for you to ask questions. It's for you to eventually follow your mission and goal. It's to help you heal and to work with the mass consciousness of the family and everyone around you to change it back to from chaos, what we are now, into unconditional love. And it sounds airy fairy, but I know I will succeed because my goal will be to get 1% of the population to embrace unconditional love. I'll go into that a little bit more when we talk about something else. Anyway, the telephone number is to call in.
The call-in number on Tuesday night is 202-926-1059. And the
And
access
the
code,
access
Michael?
code is 125-446 pound.
Here, one more time. That number is 202-926-1059.
And the access
Access
code
code?
is 125-446 pound.
I'll make sure that I put all Michael's contact information. Sorry about that. All Michael's contact information and the phone numbers in the comments below. But if you're looking for the recordings, they run about 10-15 minutes. You want to add a little bit more on that one, or should I just go ahead and give the number?
These are replays of the 211 messages. They start with number 3. Don't ask me why, to 211. And I will tell you that if you're bored, stuck in traffic, whatever, they're motivation, and they will change your thinking and will change your day. So I would suggest all of you to listen to the recordings. And the number is?
And the recordings are at 434-300-4170. Access
And
code?
the code is 125-446 pound.
One more time, the recordings are 434-300-4170. Access code?
125-446 pound.
He does that so well. So,
We have fun.
did I miss anything, Michael?
One more. The second Saturday of every month, we have the Mass Consciousness Healing. And that is 9:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to approximately 11:01 a.m. Now, it's not recorded. In the first 3 to 5 minutes, I talk a little bit, and then we go into silent meditation. And then afterwards, I talk for 2 or 3 minutes when we're done and we're over. What I said was I wanted to get 1% of the population. And some of you may be familiar with the 100th monkey syndrome. If not, you can look it up. But more importantly is that you are the solution. You can make a difference. And we have to make a difference on this planet because of the chaos and the fear and the doubt that's going on. And what we have to understand is there's been other situations. There's been hurricanes, volcanoes. There's been earthquakes. There's been pandemics. The Spanish flu and others, other illnesses. And we as a human race has triumphed. And why is it in a crisis? I remember the blizzard back in Boston in 1978, the blizzard of 78, with 3.5, 4 feet of snow and wind drifts that covered the door. And everybody was real warm and friendly, had parties and talked. It was over. We stopped talking to each other. I don't know why. But why is it the human race has to wait for a crisis to band together? Why can't we be loving and caring now instead of waiting for a crisis? Really don't understand that. But more importantly, my mission and goal is to help us get back to being, figuratively speaking, a loving, caring society, a Garden of Eden. And also to understand that you are the solution and you can make a difference in the future. And part of my mission and goal is to teach you how to manifest your spiritual mission and goal. And I will tell you, every one of your missions and goals on a spiritual level will individually and jointly change the mass consciousness on this planet. That's how important you are. So never underestimate that. But I can go on my soapbox, but we'll leave it for there. So I turn it over to you.
So one more time, the number, if you call in on the second Saturday of the month, that number is 202-926-1059. 1059. It's the same as the call-in number on Tuesday night. And the access code, one more time, Michael, because I know how you like to do the pound.
125446 pound.
Wow.
What is this?
He loves that part. Okay. Sorry we've gone over a little bit for time, but I think that this was a very, very, very important topic. And there will be a part 3, right, Michael?
Yes, and I wanted to add one other thing. We're asking for information. We asked on the number 1. This is number 2. Is Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock good for you? Would you prefer 4 or 5 or 7? We're just open for suggestions. And again, probably in about 4 to 6 weeks, I would like all of you to jot down a question or something you'd like me to talk about. And perhaps I'll be able to answer it to some degree of authenticity or strong enough for you to understand. Hopefully I will. But this is awfully important because once your answers the questions, you really feel confident and you can walk your path. And you won't have to be intimidated like I was by a geometry teacher. Everyone, please remember those thoughts and send it in. Give us food for thought or something you'd like me to talk about, because that is so important, because it's all about you. And it's all about you because you're making a difference. And you know my motto, you are unlimited. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Do you want to say something?
I do. The one thing I wanted to say was I know exactly what you're talking about when you refer to feeling intimidated. I felt like that for a very, very long time. And I'm no longer a prisoner in my fears thanks to you. So if you can relate to anything here that Michael has shared with you, definitely connect with one of us, because we are here to help, because we are all unlimited and we're here to help one another. And on that note, freedom does begin within. And we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for your patience and joining us on this Sunday. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.